welcome to our Crazy Life Scotland. It's Fiona here, and this is another Saturday story time. I was just sitting here replying to some of your lovely comments on Abby's 18th birthday weekend, and I came across a comment from Melanie, who is actually down under in New Zealand, and she had asked for a birth story, and I thought that would be a nice way to end the series of 18th birthday videos that I put up. I know it feels like about 50 million parts, but it was actually 5 parts, and I thought if I put this video up today, that would be a nice end to it. So grab yourself a cup of whatever you like, tea, coffee. I've got a white chocolate coconut latte, and have a little tipple if it's that time of night, if that's what you so desire. Get comfortable and I will begin. Because I wasn't joking when I said that 18 years ago Abby almost killed me. So let's go back to the beginning. I had wanted to have a baby quite soon after Jack and I got married. We got married in 2003. And no, we didn't. We got married in 2002. Whoops. We'll have been married 20 years next month. And in December 2003, I had a feeling that I was pregnant, but I waited until Christmas Day to do a pregnancy test. And yes, I was pregnant. So our Christmas present to my mum and dad that year was a positive pregnancy test, because my mum had wanted to be a gran for years. And so that was Christmas 2003, we found out we were pregnant. Not too long after that, I think it was just a few days before my 12-week scan, I was leaning over to tie my shoelace and I felt something go pop in my back, and that was it. My back was put out for the rest of my pregnancy. I spent the whole of my pregnancy from there on in on crutches, and the physio who I visited often basically said that because all the ligaments and things soften up when you're pregnant, it had just went so easily, and she gave me a sort of belt thing to put on and gave me crutches and said there was basically nothing that could be done until I had the baby, and it would probably go back to normal. So it wasn't the easiest of pregnancies. I had to stop working because I was a medical rep at that time, which required me to carry a lot of equipment, a lot of heavy, like a heavy briefcase, a lot of literature, things like that, and it just wasn't possible. I was driving all over Scotland. It just wasn't possible when I was on crutches. So I had to stop working a lot earlier than I normally would have. And yeah, it was a fairly painful, long, boring time. Sorry, I'm clapping Clyde here. He's wanting my coffee and I've only just poured it. Oh, there's the girl there, the lady in question. I'm just talking about how you nearly killed me, Abby. But other than that, the pregnancy was relatively smooth. I did have a lot of acid reflux. I didn't have mega cravings. Ready salted crisps, I think, was my main craving when I was pregnant with Abby. Nothing major. There she is. You coming to say hello to them? It's a Saturday story time about your birth. And there she is now, 18-year-old, about to go and watch Celtic play the Rangers. Yay! Hugo's a Celtic fan as well, playing with a Celtic dog toy. And she's even got poor Adam obsessing over Celtic as well.
Wait, Hugo, did you know I did this?
Yes, he knows it squeaks, thank you. Sorry about that, where was I? That's on my way to the football. Yeah, so fairly uneventful pregnancy. And I can't remember what my actual due date was, but obviously as I got bigger, my back got sorer and I got really quite uncomfortable. I got really bad swelling in my legs, and yeah, I was, I can't remember if it was an overly warm summer, but I remember being very uncomfortable. I remember going to a christening and trying to find a dress and just feeling like a beached whale. It wasn't nice at all. But when it came to my due date, we went for a walk on, where were we? South Queensferry way somewhere, and we had a nice walk by the water, and we walked and walked and walked, and nothing happened. And I was like, please let me have this baby soon. I was so desperate to have it. And nothing happened. And then I went to the midwife and got a membrane sweep, and still nothing happened. And because my back was so sore at that point, the consultant said, right, if you've not had the baby within a couple of days, we'll take you in and induce you. And that's what ended up happening. I was taken into the hospital on, I can't remember the times and everything, which is shocking really, but I think I was taken into hospital on the 26th of August, and they induced me. What did they do? They gave me another sweep, and did they give me a pessary or something? I can't remember. And the reason that I can't remember is because it was quite a traumatic birth. So they did whatever and still nothing was happening. So then they gave me the drip. Is it oxytocin that they give you? They gave me the drip, and that started my contractions going. And then I was taken down into the labour ward, and I remember the contractions really starting. But because I had such a bad back, they wouldn't give me an epidural. So I was given gas and air, which was brilliant. I have to say, I loved the gas and air. And then I was given, what was the injection that they gave me? I don't think they give it now, but it was a very, very strong injection, and I was away with the fairies. And I remember saying to the midwife, look at you on that unicycle. That's one of the only memories that I've got from the birth. And my mum was my birthing partner. Jack was there, but Jack can't handle anything gory or bloody, so he was outside in the waiting room. My mum was my birthing partner, because they only let you have one. I did know that Abby was going to be a girl because I had quite a few scans because my back was bad and things like that, and because when I went for my 20-week scan, she wasn't lying in the right position, so they had to have me back a couple of times just to get all the measurements and everything. So I knew she was a girl. And I remember being completely out of it, but the pain, not so much the contractions, but the pain in my lower back was unbearable, really, really unbearable. I was screaming with the pain in my lower back rather than the contractions. And they said that it was because she was head down, but we were back to back. So instead of her looking at the floor, she was looking at the ceiling. And they said that that's what was making it so painful, and it was making it a lot harder for me to actually give birth. And when they were trying to get her out, they got the forceps out, and that wasn't working. So they decided they were going to try the ventouse, or was it the other way around? I can't remember, but what? That was Hugo going, What is it, big boy? Anyway, whatever happened, there was an emergency. I think her heart rate, whoa. Sorry, I've had to shut the blinds because Clyde was barking at the squirrels. Anyway, there was an emergency. I would have been better with Granny Annie here because she remembers it a lot clearer because she was actually in the room at the time. There was an emergency. I think Abby's heart rate started dropping, and they knew that they had to get her out, but they didn't have time to get me around to theatre, and because they couldn't give me an epidural, they made the decision that they were going to have to put me to sleep. So where I was, just in the delivery room, they gave me a general anaesthetic. They weren't able to give me a C-section because I wasn't in theatre. So they gave me a general anaesthetic and they delivered Abby. I forgot to mention that Abby was delivered at 5:30 a.m. on the 27th of August, and she was 8 pounds exactly. I have got no idea how it was. I'm pretty sure it was forceps in the end, but I think they did try the ventouse as well. That's when they suction the baby out. But all I remember was about half an hour later being woken up and having Abby on my chest. And I vaguely remember being happy and looking down and seeing all this ginger hair. I mean, she was bald, but what hair was there was ginger. And I remember smiling because me and Jack were sure she was going to be ginger, because when Jack, believe it or not, Jack's blonde now, but when he was a baby, he was ginger, and his brothers are ginger, and my mum is ginger, so we were always joking about it that she was going to be ginger. Sorry about them barking. I'm going to have to carry on or else I'll never get through it. So I remember looking down, seeing that she was ginger and smiling and then going to sleep again. And then I remember being woken up to try to feed her. So I tried to breastfeed her, but she wasn't latching on. And I was just so tired. I remember being so tired. And the midwife was saying something to me and I had no idea what it was. And I remember looking down at her again and crying. And there's a photo somewhere, I've got no idea where it is. I think it's up the loft somewhere. If I had it near to me, I would put it in. But there's a horrible photo of me crying like, ah, and looking down at Abby. And I honestly don't know if it was happy tears or sad tears or just chemically induced tears. I've got no idea. And then I just kept going to sleep. So eventually the midwife took her from me. The next thing I know, I was on a ward and Abby was in just like one of the ward cot things at the side of the bed. And I remember Abby crying, and I remember trying to sort of get over to her, but feeling really dizzy, and my head was so sore. It was really sore. And she kept crying, so I buzzed for a midwife, and the midwife came over and I said, she's crying. And she said, yeah, she's your baby, you need to see to her. And I'm like, but I can't, my head's really sore. And she went, your head's sore? And I went, yeah. And she went, right, okay, I'll be back in a minute. And I remember nothing after that. Absolutely nothing. Then I remember a horrible sensation going right through my body. It was like roasting hot, a burning sensation going from my feet to my head to my feet again. It was horrible. And I couldn't open my eyes, I couldn't move, I couldn't say anything. It was just the most horrible sensation ever. I remember all these people being round my bed, not shouting, but very forceful, you know, giving orders. And I'm thinking, what is going on? And then they said, right, and I remember hearing HDU. And I'm like, HDU, who's going to HDU? And then my bed was being moved, and I'm like, what's going on? Where's the baby? And I saw Jack. I saw my mum and dad, and I saw Jack. And as I passed them, I don't remember, but Jack says that I looked at him and said, take care of the baby and the dogs. We had 2 huskies at that time, Lubo, and we had Storm, who was just a puppy at that time. And apparently I said, take care of the baby and the dogs. And that was that. And right, Clyde, we hear you. He's wanting my coffee, hold on. And the next thing I know, it was really late at night. And I woke up in HDU and I was a lot more clear-headed. And my auntie was there, my Auntie Mary. And she handed me Abby and she went, I got to change her bum before you, and started laughing. And I went, all right. And she went, but I didn't like it because it was the, what's it called, meconium. And I went, ha ha ha. And she gave me her. And it was a brilliant feeling. It was like, at last I'm holding my baby. And at that time, it didn't really click that I had already held her and I'd already had the skin-to-skin contact. This was the first time that I really registered holding her, and it was just an absolutely amazing feeling. I was still exhausted, my head was still a bit sore, but it was this, oh, I've got a baby at last. And because it was so late, my Auntie Mary took her again and put her back in her cot, and she went away. I think my mum had been there basically all day, and they'd eventually said to her, go and get some sleep. I'm probably telling this all wrong. My mum will watch it and say, that's not what happened, but that's my memory of it. So I wanted to give you my memory of it. If it is wrong, I'll update you at some point in the future. So I remember getting to sleep, and I did wake up a couple of times with her crying, but the nurse came and took her because she said, no, you need to rest. And then the next day I was well enough to go back down to the maternity ward, and because I still wasn't well, the midwives took her to let me get a rest. But what they told me was that, right, Clyde, they didn't actually know what had happened to me. They believe I'd had an allergic reaction to something that they'd given me during the anaesthetic. They think that it was the Voltarol suppository, but I'm not convinced because I've been using them for the last few months for my migraine and I've never had a reaction. But that's what they thought it was, and they're sure that I had an allergic reaction because after I said I had a headache, the reason that the midwife went to get help was I was huge. Apparently I was really, really puffy, totally swollen. I couldn't move my fingers because they were so puffy. So she went to get help, and when they came back, I couldn't breathe. And the feeling that I had, the burning feeling, was them giving me adrenaline to try to counteract the anaphylaxis. I was going into anaphylactic shock, and that's what the horrible sensation was, and that's how I ended up in HDU, high dependency unit. So so they're pretty sure that it was a reaction to something. So I ended up being on the maternity ward for a good few days. They did bring Abby back to me, but we tried everything to get her to breastfeed. She wouldn't latch on. I did try pumping, but by that time my milk was starting to dry up because it was a good couple of days before I was able to even try breastfeeding and pumping. So it just wasn't happening. It was too sore, I was too stressed, Abby was too hungry, and I just made the decision to say, look, I'm just wanting to bottle feed her. So I ended up just bottle feeding her, and we were both much happier after that. Abby did end up with a bit of jaundice, so she was put under the UV light by my bed. She had the yeast sleep mask on, and she was under the UV light, but she was absolutely fine. My swelling did go back down, thankfully, and my back, although it wasn't better straight away, after a few weeks it got back to normal. And once we got home, we got into a good routine again. But it was a very, very scary moment when all of that happened. My mum was convinced I wasn't going to make it. The midwives didn't know if I was going to make it because they didn't know what it was that was causing it. Jack was like, what the hell is going on? My dad was like, oh my God, what's happening? It was one of those situations where nobody knew what was happening. I didn't know, but thankfully we all came through it okay. So yeah, 18 years ago she did almost kill me, and as I said in the car, every day since I've wanted to kill her. Not quite, but there have been moments. There have been moments where, like any teenager, I could quite happily strangle her. What happened after that, I did go to the allergy clinic in Glasgow. I had quite a few outpatient appointments there to try to find out what it was that had caused it. And although they did the skin prick test to loads of different things, and although I reacted to quite a few things, there was nothing that gave a severe enough reaction to say that that's what it was that had caused it. We do know that I am allergic to most antiemetics, which is anti-sickness drugs, because I did have an anaphylactic reaction to them way back when I was a student. But we know that they didn't give me any of those when I was in labour or when they put me to sleep, because that they knew that I was allergic to them. So it definitely wasn't anything like that. And we've never ever found out what it was. And thankfully, touch wood, I've never had a reaction like that again. But it did mean that when I fell pregnant with Brooke, that we were all terrified that the same thing was going to happen. But thankfully with Brooke, I didn't end up with a sore back. So I did have a planned epidural with her, and I did have to be induced with Brooke again, but early this time because I ended up with preeclampsia. I was swollen, my blood pressure was sky high, so they did induce me with Brooke again, but thankfully it was a normal delivery and nothing like that happened. It was all good. And I did have the epidural and it made a huge difference. I didn't see any midwives on a unicycle during that birth. So yeah, that is the story of my birth with Abby. I have probably got bits of it wrong, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. Like I say, when I talk to Granny Annie, if there are any updates, I will let you know in a future video. But I want to get this video up today because I think it would be a good way, as I said, to cap off her 18th birthday weekend. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this. If you've got any questions, please do let me know. I've maybe missed things out. So if there's anything that you like, but you didn't tell us this, let me know and I will fill you in on it. But it was a very scary moment for everybody concerned. I was probably the least scared because I had no idea what was going on. I think I gave everybody else more of a scare than I had, to be honest. So yes, Melanie, I hope this is what you were looking for. Thank you so much for stumbling across my channel and watching it. She did say that she's enjoying the video, so thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for all of your lovely comments on Abby's 18th birthday weekend. I'm so glad you all enjoyed watching it. I'm glad that you all find us down to earth. That's what we aim for here on this channel. We are who we are. What you see is what you get. And I'm glad that it comes across like that because there's no airs and graces here. We are just a crazy wee family from Scotland. So thank you so much for watching us. Like I say, please do talk to me in the comments below. If you've got any questions, I will answer them. If you've enjoyed this, help my wee channel grow by hitting that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell notification so that you get notified of any other videos that I put up. And I will see you in our next one. Thanks everyone. Bye!